Hey, this is Eric Gleich, pro snowmobile racer for New England XC Cross Country. Just going to be walking through how to stud a track, and we're going to be getting ready for the upcoming season here. We got the sled prepping behind me, got a new track, and got to start studding it. So I'm going to take you along for the journey and hope you guys learned something. So here we're going to be going through, we got all Woody's traction products here. We're going to be doing 144 studs on this template here. And everything you need is on the video here. We'll go through it a little more in depth, but the biggest thing we're going to start out with here is going to be actually marking the template. If you do already have a skidoo track, it comes pre-marked and you'll be able to just drill into it, but we're also using the Woody's template here. Just marked out what we want for 144 design for a 137-inch skid. We're going to go ahead, copy that over, and then we'll get into it. So for stud selection on this one, we're primarily going to be using this for ice racing. So we're going to be using Woody's Eliminator stud. So it is a 30-degree tip on this stud, which essentially just means this top part that's coming out at a 30-degree angle. And the biggest benefit of this for ice is going to be the penetration into it. So it's just a sharper point versus a generic trail stud. So that's really what we're going to be going for here, is just driving in and getting as much traction as possible into the ice. Just to compare this against a trail stud, this is a Woody's Grand Gold Digger stud. It is a modified Gold Digger. We can see it is still coming to a point, but it's not quite as aggressive as an angle. And really, this is just a more of a durable stud that's going to give you better traction on the trail and all around into the stud or into the snow. Just being a wider stud, wider body, it's going to grab that snow a little bit better. There are some circumstances, or kind of you'll see this on some race sleds, is a chisel stud. So you can see it's a flat front. It's really going to grab the snow or ice really well. As it's rotating around the track, this will grab into it. The biggest downside of this is the side traction. You won't get as much side bite when you're going through a corner on the ice as you will with either one of these studs. So biggest benefit here is, for this, you're going to probably get some more hole shots with it, but this is going to help you handle. So once we've decided on the stud that we're going to be using, again, we'll be using the Eliminator stud. Go to woodys.com and check out their hookup guide so you can see what's applicable to your sled. And then once you have that, they'll also give you an idea of what template to use. I'm also going to walk through the template that we're going to be using. So it's going to be directly from Woody's. We're going to be doing 144 studs on this track, as I mentioned before. So what we're primarily going to be doing from a template design is 2 in the middle, and then every other row we're going to have some on the outside as well. So the biggest benefit of having them on the outside is going to be the corner exit. So that's really going to help that track bite into the ice or slippery conditions and pull you forward. The kind of downside if you get too many on the outside is you will notice you will get more inside ski lift. So it's balancing the amount of traction that you want to have coming out of the corner with the handling and the chassis roll inside the corner. That's kind of why we decided what we're doing. When we look at the Woody's template itself here, they will mark out what you want for a design. So this is going to be what we're going with here. And then it'll tell you to punch out the corresponding holes. And then once you've done that on this template, you want to lay it down onto your track. And this track is off the sled just because it's brand new, but you can do this in the sled as well. Just make sure you're lining up the template with the arrow. If it's on the sled, it shouldn't matter because hopefully your track is installed correctly. But basically lay it out so you can read the template with the arrows going forward. And then once you have the template on the track, it's as simple as going through with a paint pen, punching all the holes with the paint pen and marking where you're going to be drilling. Alright, so we have the luxury here, since this track is off of the sled, to prop it up. We have this handy dandy barbell, also great for getting you into shape for racing, but for here we'll be using it just to hold the track up. So we have all of our marks dotted onto the track. Next we'll be drilling out a bunch of holes. Again, we got 144 here. Typical pattern is probably about 96, but Yeah, to drill out your holes, we're going to be going in basic cordless drill here. So we do have this Woody's track drill that we're going to be using. Again, woodys.com for this. Go ahead and start basically lining this up. So what we're going to be doing is just taking your drill, lining it up to the hole. We'll start here, and then this first one's going to be a little bit more difficult, typically. One, this is kind of dull. This has seen some tracks going through, but as you get going and the drill bit gets hotter, you're going to start drilling holes a lot faster, and it'll be a lot easier to go. So we're just going to go ahead, plug away, and drill all the marks that we just made. So as you can see, we finished drilling out all of our holes for the studs to go in, and we now have 144 little rubber pieces that bounce all around the garage. If you don't want those bouncing around, make sure to go to one of your buddy's shops to do this, because you'll probably find them for years to come. But now that we've drilled everything out, we'll go over to our studs. I like to open everything up, take them all out, lay everything out, so as we're going in and putting all the studs into the track, it's a lot easier just to come over and grab versus going into the box. So try to organize everything out, put it all out on a workbench next to your track or next to your sled. And then we'll just go into actually getting these studs into the track. Now that we have everything laid out, we're going to go ahead and start putting these studs into the track. Highly recommend Woody's Hex installation tool for studs. It makes holding on to the back of this stud when it's into the track a heck of a lot easier. So we're just going to be holding the backside a lot easier than using a ratchet or just a standard Allen key. Honestly, probably one of my favorite tools that I have in my trailer or in the shop here. Just makes studding the track a lot easier. It takes the impact out of your hand quite a bit versus using anything else. So highly recommend that. I like to use an impact driver. It just helps pull the stud in quicker and get this going a lot faster, just because this is a little bit of a time consuming job. Once you get these studs in, make sure to torque them to spec. But for the purposes, I'm just going to be using this impact. I've tested it before. It is pretty close to the actual torque spec. So we'll go ahead and we'll start throwing some studs in. So we're just going to push the studs from behind, basically fully push them in. You'll have the back of the stud push flush against the track. If you don't get it fully, it won't matter, because we'll be sucking it up through with the nut as we're tightening. So essentially, we'll go through, lay out all the studs here. We'll basically go through and just do a loose installation and then go through and tighten them up as we go. But I find it a lot quicker to just lay everything out before we tighten it. If you're in the sled, going in and installing, probably just going to want to go one section at a time to install them and then tighten them up, just in case as you're turning the track you don't want to have loose studs in there. They could just get caught up on your high facts or your slides, and we just don't want to damage anything. So go ahead, after you've loosely installed them, go ahead, tighten them up as you go if you are in the sled. So here again too, we use the Woody's backers for these studs. I like to use a square backer. It just gives the stud a little bit more structure to the track and helps the stud keep its shape as it's rotating and pushing into the ice. This gives it a little bit more support so it stands the stud upright more. You can use just a round backer as well. They are a little lighter, which you do have a benefit there, but you're probably not going to get just as good of a bite as you would with this square backer. Once we have all the studs in here loose, I went ahead, threw a pair of gloves on. Especially if you're going to be doing this in the sled, more than likely you'll probably run your hand against these studs, and they're pretty sharp. You don't want to be walking away from this project all cut up. So good to throw a pair of gloves on too is holding the backer Here, you won't feel the impact as much from the impact driver. So good to throw some gloves on. So to actually go ahead and start to tighten these up, we're just going to put our stud holding tool right behind. We'll just put that in and then just hold it from behind the track as we come around on the other side with our impact, making sure that the actual backing plate is still square. We don't want to get these all rounded off to the corners. We do want to keep that square. Woody's does sell a tool to hold that as well, but we're going to kind of freestyle this because I don't have the tool. So just making sure that's square. Once we actually want to tighten this up, put the impact on. And then we're actually good and flush on the back end, so it's good and tight. We'll look on the back side of this stud. We can see how it's essentially even with the track, so that we'll know that it is fully installed. We can see the comparison here between a non-tight stud versus an actual fully tightened stud. We just want to make sure that's flush. So now we will go ahead, repeat that process. It does help too if you do have another person to help you out. Just to hold the back can help the process go a little bit quicker. We'll go ahead and tighten all these up. Alright, so as you can see, we have all the studs installed, ready to go. So this will actually be going on one of my new sleds that's coming in hopefully in a couple weeks. We'll do some content on that too once that comes in. But got the stud job complete. If you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. And if you need any advice or have any questions on what traction products to use or what may work well in your application, happy to answer those questions as well. And if you guys have more ideas on what you'd like to see next for different how-to videos, drop those in the comment. I'm happy to go through. We have some different ideas of coming up with some content for you guys, but be sure to follow along, subscribe, like the video, and check us out on Facebook, Gleich Racing, and looking forward to another good year on snow. Thanks, everyone. You want to come over here? Are you filming?
Yep.
Well, hold on.